Hello everybody and welcome to the Hungarian Grand Prix Preview edition of the Wing It F1 podcast. I'm Freddie Coates and I'm here with Adam Dickinson and Nigel Chu. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm back home now after being in Sheffield for the last one with awful Wi-Fi. So hopefully that'll be better. But yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to Hungary and seeing how a different track throws up potentially a different result or will allow us to learn a lot more about the season anyway.
Yeah, same as Adam really. Just looking forward to the weekend. Can anyone topple the mighty Mercs? We'll find out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be focusing our podcast on today is who will come out on top in Hungary, the recent revelations in the driver transfer market, which I'm sure most of you will have heard about, and the rumblings after the Styrian Grand Prix that was last weekend in Austria. So I think we'll start with the big news that's been rumbling along this week. It really developed the past few days, which is Sebastian Vettel going to Racing Point? Nigel, what do you think of this?
In one word, I think yes, it is going to happen. Well, when, I'm not sure. So from what I've heard and know about, Perez has a release clause, which means if the team can give him some money to not drive next year, and that date that clause has to be done by. Sorry, I'm messing up my words here. Is the 31st of July. So then, basically, within the next 2 weeks, we might hear that Perez will not be driving for Racing Point, and then Sebastian Vettel is going to come in. We've also heard that Fernando Alonso had contact with Racing Point,
Wow.
but obviously he's joined Renault. So I think that kind of suggests that Racing Point, who will be Aston Martin next year, are looking for a superstar driver, and that superstar driver could be Sebastian Vettel. But unfortunately, it could mean Perez will go. So that's what we know so far.
Yeah, Adam, it looked like a bit of a shut door a couple of weeks ago, did Racing Point. Otmar Safnauer has been very, very clever with his words in interviews, people who seem to pick up on, saying we're happy with our drivers for 2020 and we don't see any reason to change. But why not for 2021? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was the quote I'd seen. He's being, I think, ambiguous deliberately with his words. I mean, for Vettel, it seems like I'd say there's Red Bull and Mercedes, but kind of those aren't looking like major options at the moment. And Aston Martin, as it will be, kind of seem like the next best option for him with the money that's coming in. I guess obviously Perez brings a lot to the team, both on and off the track. And, you know, he's a kind of underrated driver in terms of how good he is in the midfield. But yeah, if they're looking to bring in a superstar driver, then, you know, Vettel would be top of that list to bring that in.
The question I have, for both of you is Vettel the right driver though? Is it worth getting rid of Perez in replacement for Vettel?
Well, I think Perez has he's got such a reputation in that team. He obviously was very, very key in saving the team when it was Force India from administration. And from collapse, he put it into administration, obviously. And from now on, that's then jumped leaps and bounds and has become Racing Point. And since then, it's going to be Aston Martin.
Racing Point.
Yeah, Racing Point. We'll get into that later, I think. And now it's going to be Aston Martin. So that team is going places and they mean business. So I would think it's a bit naff to chuck Perez is where I tend to lean my perspective of it. But we haven't spoken about this yet. But do you think there's any capacity for them to drop Lance Stroll?
Well, I was kind of going to say that in answer to Nigel's question. I don't think Vettel over Perez would be a massive upgrade in terms of kind of the package of on track and what he brings off track. You know, I know Vettel would bring a lot of kind of hype, but, you know, I think Perez is one of the best drivers in the sport. He's just not had that seat at a big team kind of in his prime. But I think Stroll, obviously it's a tough situation with his dad. So I don't know. It seems to be all up to Lawrence really as to what he wants to do for it. But I think if they went into the season with Vettel and Perez as a driver pairing, that would be kind of really formidable.
Yeah, and I think this is my problem. It's the pay driver thing again. Lance Stroll, should he be in F1? Maybe, but I think the money that he's bringing is absolutely vital. Will Lawrence Stroll really get rid of his own son? Though? That's the thing. I don't see it happening. So I do think Perez is going to have the short straw here. But I think for Vettel, this is a fantastic opportunity, really, because Racing Point might even have the second quickest car this year, possibly, up there with Red Bull, just behind Mercedes. So with next year, with Aston Martin coming on board, more money, Aston Martin could be a top team, especially if Mercedes doesn't stay in the sport post-2021. Aston Martin could become the top team with Vettel there again. So it's a fantastic lifeline for Vettel if this happens. And unfortunately for Perez, he might have to go somewhere else to stay in Formula One.
Touching on what you said about Lawrence and Lance there, and how you can't really see Lawrence getting rid of his son, is there not an argument to say that Lawrence Stroll is such a canny businessman? He's obviously got himself to the position where he's able to fund a Formula One team and a Formula One drive for his son prior to that. And with such a rigorous procedure to get him up to speed in the 2016 Williams car around then before his first season, or 2014 car and 2016 track, something like that. And do you not think, is there not cause to say that Lawrence Stroll knows business and knows that there would be better options than keeping his son on? Do you not think he would understand that if he bought a stake in Aston Martin to give his son a Formula One drive, he would completely lose credibility for that team? Do you think he would understand that and not do that?
Well, I think it's difficult because he's sunk so much money into Lance's career that then if he kind of pulls the plug on that after not that many seasons in the sport, that's kind of not a great outcome for what he's put in to that. But on the flip side, if Lance isn't the best driver available for Aston Martin, then it's not a good business move to carry on with him. So I think it just depends what his kind of aim is with buying Aston Martin and kind of pushing. Well, I think mainly for buying Aston Martin, whether it's to give Lance a continued drive for as long as Lance wants to do it, or whether it's to have a stake in a successful F1 team. And I think those two are differing aims, and he put different drivers in depending on which one he's going for from that. But only he'll know that. We've got no idea.
Yeah, I agree with Adam there. It depends on what Lawrence Stroll wants to do. Does he want to win world championships? If he does, a Lance Stroll in your team, for me, is not going to get you world championships. So really you need two great drivers, and Perez and Vettel will be a brilliant lineup. And just hopefully Perez can stay on the grid, because I feel he's getting really, what's the word? I'm trying not to say anything wrong here. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I
was just going to say, I think any team really, I think, would benefit from Perez. I think most teams on the grid would benefit from having Perez in the building as a frontline driver, to be honest. I think if he does drop out, it will be incredibly harsh, because, I can't, especially obviously we don't know what the top teams are thinking, but, even in the top teams, I can see him fitting in, and definitely in the midfield or the kind of Class E teams, I think he'd improve any of them. So it would be incredibly harsh if he does drop out of the sport.
I was convinced a few years ago he was going to move to Ferrari around 17, 18, around then. And I thought it was a right snub that he didn't. And I was in the musical chairs a couple of years ago. I was glad that he was chosen over Ocon at Force India, because I thought the sport would have had more of a long-term loss. So I thought Ocon had more chance of getting back into the sport than Perez would have done, because Perez is in he's been around now. He's had his age. I mean, you look at Hulkenberg, everyone's going, oh, Hulkenberg's had his chance. Whereas with Ocon, they said, oh no, he hasn't had his chance. But with Perez, people would have said, they would go, well, that was it. He went to McLaren, all of that jazz. So, but I think the seats that are being touted for Perez, which has been reported in, I think it's the South American press, that he has spoken to Haas and Alfa Romeo. I know, Nigel, you think that one of those is very good for him.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go to Haas last year or a couple of years ago, actually. So I think Haas is a good move, especially since the Haas team is stuck with Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean for, I think, 3 years now. So I think they need a change of lineup. Perez himself also does bring some money with him, some backing. So that will help Haas out if they want to stay in Formula One. I would love to see Perez at Red Bull, but that's more of just a dream, really. Will Red Bull go outside of their program? I highly doubt it. But I think Haas would be the best fit for Perez if he can't stay at Racing Point.
I think I saw somewhere the other day that Magnussen and Grosjean is one of the top 10 longest driver pairings in Formula One. And you look at that and think, how's that happened? What have they done? No offence to Haas. Does anyone have anything else they want to say on Vettel?
Well, I think we've kind of not really explored that side, but obviously the other factor in this is, A, does Vettel want it, and B, kind of how much is his heart still in F1? And, you know, he's come off several down years with Ferrari, and, you know, he's going to be leaving to go to, well, if he did, hypothetically, he'd be going to Aston Martin, you know, having lost out to Leclerc potentially for 2 years in a row, kind of from what we've seen so far. And kind of A, what's his drive and motivation like at this point, and B, kind of, you know, what level would he be at? Because, you know, he's not in the same car as Leclerc. He's not been able to beat him. And in the, you know, when he was at Red Bull, he wasn't able to beat, kind of getting into dangerous territory, but he got beat by Ricciardo, who then got beat by Verstappen. So, you know, kind of against the top
Cardinal sin
teams. Yeah, against the top teams, you know, how would he stack up? You know, I'm not really sure about that, but
well, he's still playing the game. On Sky Sports at the Syrian Grand Prix, Brundle said that Sebastian Vettel had asked to have an interview with him today, Thursday, in Hungary.
I think that interview was because it clashed with another interview with another TV broadcaster. So I think that's just a bit of trying to create a story out of nothing, to be honest. But yeah, he has. There will be an interview. Whether there will be anything from it, we don't know. But
we know it's going to be hard.
Yeah. But for Vettel, this like I said before, it's a huge opportunity if he can get the Aston Martin seat, because I believe there will be one of the big guns in 2 or 3 years' time. He's come out, is he 33 now, something like that? So he's still got a good few years left in him. So he can definitely stay in F1 for 3 or 4 years, but he has to bring what we saw in his Red Bull days, or even his early Ferrari days, 2015, 2016. He was quite good. And yeah, just the last few years have let him down. But maybe a new team, a new environment. He will also be number one, we presume, with Stroll as a number 2 driver, I guess. So that's something that could help him a lot. If Vettel went to Red Bull, he would almost certainly be number 2. So then that wouldn't play into his hands. So then, if anything, Racing Point, Aston Martin, that is the seat everyone would want, apart from the Mercedes seat, obviously. I think that's the seat that Vettel should go for.
Yeah, and I think moving on from that, we can stick with Racing Point while we're there and go on to another rumbling story from the back end of the Styrian Grand Prix, which was Renault protesting the brake ducts of the Racing Point. Do we think that there is any grounds to this, or do we think it's just Renault being salty about their brake bias in Japan last year? Nigel, do you want to go with that?
I think, well, the thing for me is I sent out a tweet a couple of days ago. How have Racing Point built a car that is almost identical or 90% identical as what the Mercedes of last year was without any, well, just from photos, they say. They must have had some help from Mercedes, which is, well, kind of mad, really, because if they're allowed to do that, how come Red Bull and Toro Rosso haven't been doing this kind of thing for years? So there must have been something going on. And if the brake ducts are found to be exactly the same as last year's Mercedes, then, yeah, we could be getting into some sort of trouble here for Mercedes and Racing Point, because if you're allowed to effectively just copy a top team, then we're just going to see 4 Red Bulls. Well, this year's Red Bull and next year's Red Bull on the grid, and then 6 Mercedes and 6 Ferraris and 2 Renaults.
Adam, do you want to copy a Ferrari?
I think a Ferrari supercar, yeah, I'd love to. Maybe not an F1 car at the moment. I mean, maybe this is what the sport needs. Maybe it's going to become a spec series, and have crazy races every week. But no, I mean, I don't, brake ducts especially, it's a very good job if you're copying them from photos because,
wheels on them.
There's not, yeah, I know. There's not many times that they're exposed and available for you to see what's going on. But yeah, I think we don't know kind of what Renault's motivation was, for kind of leaving it a couple of weeks and then protesting it. Was it just that Stroll's move at Ricciardo kind of had them, was the straw that broke the camel's back or what, I don't know. But yeah, it is very identical to the Mercedes of last year.
I think this story is going to go on for quite a while. It'll probably end up in court. So, yeah.
The key point from this protest that I think, for me, was the response on Monday that the protest was deemed admissible. So there is grounds for the protest from Racing Point, and the FIA are going to look into this. They've not thrown it out, and there is going to be an investigation, and they've requested the designs of the 2019 Mercedes brake ducts. So, I mean, they can overlay as much as they like, but once you just look at the 2019, I don't know what they've done with that. I know they would have done a lot with the 2020 designs. So, I
think a lot of it will be kind of looking at what Racing Point have in terms of their design iterations of developing it. So we know that when Racing Point were developing it, they've spoken to the FIA and liaised with the FIA, and they didn't find any kind of problem with it at the time. But I think a lot of it will be kind of, because if you've got identical brake ducts or near identical brake ducts, but you can show all of the design processes that you took to make it there, they'll probably get away with that. So I think it will centre around that in terms of, can they prove, it's kind of like when you do a maths exam and you've got to show you're working out. Can they prove that, they came to the same conclusion as Mercedes with the brake ducts, but organically.
Yeah, for F1, this is a massive thing, because if Racing Point, if this is allowed, we're going to see down the car. Red Bull will give Toro Rosso whatever they had the previous year, etc. It's going to create a whole new scenario for the sport. And yeah, I guess it comes down to the fundamentals of F1, like about design and creating your own cars and things like that. So yeah, this is a massive, massive story. It will be interesting to see how it develops. I just don't understand how you can create a car so similar, and not only that, extracts the performance as well, because one little bit that's not the same, it will have a huge effect for the rest of the car. So for me, something must have happened behind the scenes.
There was in the 2018 Haas, it was Racing Point, then Force India at the start of the season, who were most vocal about
Yeah.
being against the processes of Haas in what looked like a carbon copy of the 2017 Ferrari that year, transferred into 2018 cars. If you hold an image of the 2018 Haas next to the 2017 Ferrari, the side pods are such a unique design, and yet they flow really well into each other. And so they were incredibly vocal about it and said, well, if you can do this, then we'll just go and get our partnership. And here we are.
I mean, I'm not going to be as final on it as Nigel. I think, I wait. I think there is a way that they could do it. You just need to get a hell of a lot of photos, and with the amount of photographers there are at F1,
I don't think there is a way to do it.
If you get Giorgio Piola's calendar.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it will definitely rumble on. It'll be very interesting to follow, but I think there is a possibility that it is legal, and we'll just have to wait and see on that.
Imagine if this affects Mercedes as well, they get disqualified for allowing Racing Point to have the car.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, we've harped on for ages about wanting more teams fighting at the top, and now we've got that with Racing Point. Then everyone
strike them down.
So, you can't win, can you?
Well, whoever is winning is the person who came up with the Racing Point pun. I think that is insane.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on to this weekend, then we've got so much rumbling over. The big discussion for this point is it's our second track of 2020. The first time we're not racing in Austria. This is amazing, guys. We're going to Hungary. The fact that it's actually been able to happen, the Formula One, the circus, has been able to move the entire paddock to another country in a pandemic currently. How do we think that's going? Do you think that's been handled really well? I think it's been done very well, despite some obvious reports about the Hungarian authorities. Adam, what do you think?
Well, I think it's interesting that none of the drivers have gone back to Monaco for this weekend. They've decided not
Apart
to.
From Valtteri Bottas doing it again.
No, I've not seen that. Well, that's gone well. I also saw Jack Aitken of F2 had sent out a tweet that he was in his hotel and he's not allowed to leave the hotel, and they weren't serving lunch, so he was a bit confused about what to do.
That happened to Oscar Piastri in Formula 3 as well. There were a couple of them who caught up with that, I guess.
But yeah, I've kind of not kept my eye on it too much, but it's a great step that they've been able to do it, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this weekend really, and seeing, as you say, it's a different track, seeing how teams go there, because we're kind of at the moment we're basing all of our kind of predictions and thoughts on the F1 season off one track, a bit of testing, but it's kind of quite a small sample size to actually look at and be able to draw a lot of conclusions from. So I think after this weekend we'll have a lot more kind of information on how the season's shaping up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, Formula One has done a brilliant job handling this. A few months ago, I thought there wouldn't even be a season at all. So to be having a third race already in July at the Hungarian Grand Prix is just fantastic, really. And no cases so far in I think 8,000 tests have been done so far that we've seen. So yeah, they've done a fantastic job, really, and hopefully we can get the 15 to 18 races that Liberty Media are aiming for. But as for Hungary, yeah, it's all about, can Red Bull bring the fight to Mercedes, or will Mercedes dominate, I guess. Freddie, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that Toto Wolff is already playing the victim card, isn't he, in the press, saying, Red Bull are the team to beat. They'll be, I think the exact phrase I saw was that they will roar in Hungary.
The Bulls roar?
They headbutt.
They paw the ground, yeah, but I don't think they roar. But back to the drawing board for his metaphors on that.
Yeah, I mean, second language. But I think Red Bull, famously, their car is a bit more downforce heavy, a bit more aerodynamically sound on these kind of twisty tracks. They can take a lot of speed through their corners. Normally running a bit more of a draggy setup than other teams. I think it'll be very interesting to see, but Mercedes just had such an edge in the past 2 rounds that I think it's very obvious that they're still definitely the team to beat. I think we saw that Verstappen was able to get in amongst it for such a length in the race in the Styrian Grand Prix that Red Bull, I think, will be in amongst it. As I say, they'll be there or thereabouts, but Mercedes are the obvious favourite still for me.
Yeah, and not just that kind of who's the team to beat, but Lewis is the driver to beat. He's won at Hungary 7 times. And if he wins again, he'll double the next. Michael Schumacher's the second most wins there, and he's only on 4. He loves the track, and he's won, I think, 3 of the last 4 years there as well in the Mercedes. So
I need to go and change one of the quiz questions now.
Great. I just need to be quick on my buzzer. So I think he's definitely the driver to beat, and we'll just have to see. Last year, I think Mercedes were quicker. Verstappen had the track position and was able to defend well from Lewis until Mercedes played one of the best tactical or strategy blinders that I've ever seen in terms of pitting Lewis. But yeah, I think we don't know. I just think we don't know enough at the moment to see. After practice, we'll have a bit more of an idea. But kind of until then, I'm not going to be betting against Mercedes at all.
I think on practice in the Styrian Grand Prix led a lot of people to think that Mercedes would be under challenge with Verstappen topping free practice 2, despite everyone going that it's going to be a full guns blazing session, because qualifying was thought to be cancelled at that point. So I think Verstappen surely is going to be amongst it. Where do you think Ferrari will sit this weekend? They've obviously got upgrades supposed to be coming. They pushed a few forwards to Styria, but they will have more coming now. Do we think that a draggy car will be better in the Hungaroring, Nigel?
Well, you'd think they would be better, but last year they finished a minute down, didn't they? So I think this weekend we could see them getting lapped. In fact, on last weekend on Sunday, they probably would have been lapped. So we're just, effectively that's just been pushed a week back. So don't be surprised if we see Mercedes and Red Bull lapping Ferrari, which would be quite something, really. Where will they be? It's hard to say. They're going to bring the rest of the upgrades, I think, that they plan to bring this weekend. So whether that will work, we'll have to see. Vettel usually goes well around Hungary, so it should be, again, pretty close between him and Leclerc. But yeah, I think for Ferrari, they just need to get lots of running, have a clean weekend to see where they truly are, because they've not had a clean race weekend yet to see where they are up against McLaren, Racing Point and Renault.
I'm a bit more optimistic for Ferrari this weekend just because of the nature of Hungary in terms of it's not a power-heavy track in the same way Austria is, and that was where Ferrari were losing the most time. I think in the Austrian Grand Prix, they were slowest in the speed trap out of every team. So I think they'll go better at Hungary, and as you said, Vettel has gone well there for Ferrari in the past. But yeah, it is also just, as you said, about benchmarking performance and seeing where they're at and having a clean race and not crashing into each other. But yeah, I think they could well be a team to look out for, but probably more in the kind of top of the midfield battle rather than fighting out for any race win.
It's such a different track to the Red Bull Ring that a lot of teams will be trying to cover their blushes if they need to, because they could have put on a good showing in Austria and might filter down the order a touch in Hungary. Do we think that's the case, or do we think there's going to be a very similar competitive order with Racing Point, McLaren, Renault at a higher position in the midfield compared to the lower down teams, Haas, Alfa Romeo, Williams, perhaps Alfa Tauri as well, the no man's land team?
Yeah, I think we are going to see a different order slightly. I think Renault will be quite strong because Austria has been one of their weaker tracks in the last few years. So I think Renault should be up there. McLaren as well. Well, I guess it's just the same names, really. It's just about who executes at the most important time, I guess.
Mhm.
Who can pull out the qualifying lap and maximise everything, really. But yeah, Hungary is more of a downforce track. But with the tracks coming up, a lot of them have become less downforce. They have less downforce importance. If that makes sense. So yeah, it'll be fascinating, really.
Yeah, I think we could see a bit more of a shaken up order compared to the Red Bull Ring, and also what we end up seeing at Silverstone as well. They're different tracks, or the Hungaroring's different to that as well. Alpha Tauri could be a name to look out for, as I say every week.
Right.
But I think we'll see a mixed up order, but I don't feel like I'm able to kind of put my name down too much. I mean, Carlos Sainz finished 5th in Hungary last year, so that could be one to throw out there. But yeah, I think for the moment, we'll get a clearer idea of how it goes, tomorrow. But I think, Williams. Sorry, I was just going to throw out Williams as a team to look out for. Obviously, George Russell did a lot better last year there than any other track. I think they'll definitely be kind of a team that could challenge or could surprise a few people. But I don't think George Russell will get points because he seems to be cursed not to ever get them. Nigel, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. I think in terms of the front, this is a huge weekend, really, because Mercedes should be very strong at Silverstone, Spain, Spa, compared to Red Bull. So if Red Bull can't win this weekend or they don't have the pace, then it's definitely game over in the championship, I'd say, unfortunately. That's what it is. But I'm going to say this: if Mercedes win this weekend, I think they will win every race for the rest of the season.
Does a little bit of you want that to happen, just to be like, this is really...
No, definitely not. I want to see Red Bull versus Mercedes for the championship.
I am kind of with Freddie a bit, like, I don't want it every season, but just kind of seeing them complete this kind of F1 dynasty that's, one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant teams over such a long stretch of time.
Percentage-wise, they're still a touch behind from their 2016 season. They were 19 out of 21 races. So percentage-wise, they're a little bit off the 15 out of 16 from the MP44 1988 McLaren season, which was which would have been a win as well, if not for a back marker on the second to last lap or something of Monza. So I think if Mercedes do win every race, we're actually going to this as a feasible discussion. If I were Mercedes, I wouldn't stay in the sport after winning every race. Wow. You've completed Formula One, surely.
I mean, I thought before the 2022 regulations were postponed, there was a chance Mercedes would pull out as a manufacturer. That could still happen, but not this year, next year, post 2021, for the new regulations, because they have achieved everything that, in terms of money, the profit they've gained over the last 10 years has skyrocketed. It'll be 7 consecutive championships this year if they win both the drivers and constructors, which is just absolutely incredible. They've rewritten the record books. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
If they get a front row lockout, they'll get that record as well now. They're a joint with Ferrari. I thought that if you had a season at the moment, I looked at that stat, it came up on Sky. I'm just rambling now. It said 65 front row lockouts Mercedes, same for Ferrari. And then I think Williams and McLaren were like 62 or 63. And I thought, well, that sort of worked out interestingly, because if all of them were up there fighting for front row lockouts, it'd be quite fun. Yeah. But they're not. So that's my kind of dream, is to have like 4 or 5 teams up there.
I think to kind of counter Nigel's point, yes, there's nowhere else for them to go if they win every race. But their aim, I don't think their aim kind of coming in was ever to win every race and then leave. I think if they could, kind of go over into the next set of regulations and do well, then that would put them kind of, I think, above any other F1 dynasty, F1 dominance that I can think of in terms of kind of sustained over, coming up to it'd be going a bit far ahead, but, kind of 8-year period, and over several regulation changes, and one they're being touted as the biggest in the sport's history. I think,
aren't they all?
But I think that would be, the challenge. If they could surmount that challenge, and, I don't see why they couldn't, if any team were to do it, they'd be probably top of the list, then, that would elevate them above kind of any other team I can think.
I think they have been brilliant for the sport, Mercedes, and it would be sad to see them go. So my money's on Verstappen for winning this weekend. Just for that. Moving on to some predictions. If we want to just do some quick fire jabs at who we think will win pole and, I don't know, 6th place. Go, Adam.
Hamilton will win and get pole, and he won't get 6th.
That's good. That's a good prediction.
I will go Leclerc to get 6th.
All right. Mr. Nigel Chew.
I know I said Mercedes might win every race, but I'm going to say Verstappen will win again. Just because I really hope Red Bull can do well just for the championship. Verstappen took his first pole position last year, didn't he? I think I'm going to go Hamilton for pole position, and then for 6th place, I'm going to say Albon. I think Albon's going to have a not so good race, and then that could lead to more rumours about him not staying with Red Bull. So I'm going to go a bit bold.
Nigel predicting next week's podcast topic. I'm going to go Bottas pole, Hamilton win, Sainz 6th, which is the 2019 Formula.
We'll see if we can cover these predictions next time as well in our reaction pod.
We'll go back on a reaction to ourselves. I think last week we were thrown off a bit by the rain, but I think there is some forecast for sort of lighter rain across the weekend in the Hungaroring. We won't know.
No.
The thing is with Hungary, it needs to rain a lot because it's really, really hot there usually. So then even a little bit of rain, it won't really do anything. But when it does rain...
Why not just make it humid?
When it does rain in the past, it has rained a lot. So, whether that will spice things up, we'll see.
2018 qualifying springs to mind.
If we do get heavy rain, then it's just game over for anyone other than Hamilton, I think. Seeing how dominant he, A, is at Hungary, B, is in the rain, I think put those two together and you've got a pretty good formula for a win, personally.
And now it's time for our Hungary quiz, which today is between Nigel Chew and Adam Dickinson, who are going head-to-head to battle for the honours of being the best at Magyar Nagydic knowledge. So, you guys ready? You all practiced up? You ready on your voice buzzers?
Well, I'm hyped for your quiz more. I'm hyped for your quiz because you'll be bigging this up all week, so I'm really...
Oh, just please, I've got 10
big
questions.
Big things expected.
I have had to add a last-minute question, but I think it is adequate. Okay, right. You guys ready for question 1?
Yes.
Big one.
Yes.
Not the big 2. Who receives penalties in the 2015 race for causing a collision, speeding in the pit lane, and overtaking under the safety car?
Nigel,
Nigel, go.
was it Pastor Maldonado?
The Lord and Master, Pastor Maldonado. Yes.
That's a slam dunk.
Yes.
That's like a grand slam. The grand slam that you don't want to get in racing.
That is 1 point for Nigel.
That's in. Oof.
Question 2. Heikki Kovalainen won the 2008 Hungarian Grand Prix to take his only Grand Prix win. Well done, Heikki. But who broke down 3 laps from the end to hand it to him?
Nigel.
I heard Adam first.
It was Felipe Massa.
Oh.
Correct, Amondo to Adam.
Cost him the championship, that.
Yeah.
Everything cost him the championship that year.
It did.
I was waiting because I didn't know if it would be who won or when you first mentioned it or like, you know, what year it was in. So I was kind of just waiting to see how the question panned out.
Well, I started, the first 5 words of the question were Heikki Kovalainen won the 2008.
Well, yeah, but until that point.
In which country did he win?
Yeah. What track was used?
Well, question number 3 is a bit more of a historical one, I think. Actually, no, it's, whatever. We're neck and neck. Jenson Button won the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix to take his first F1 win. Well done, Jenson. Where did he start on the grid?
Nigel.
Nigel, go.
14th.
He's done it, ladies and gentlemen. 14th position.
Fair play. Fair play. That's a big clutch play there from Nigel.
For no bonus points, where did he qualify?
Adam.
So he didn't start where he qualified.
Adam.
Yeah.
4th.
Yes.
10 place
Got a
penalty.
10 place penalty.
I figured
It's a
it'd
good
either
thing
be
that wasn't
9th.
the question.
No, I didn't want to put it as a question. I thought
or-
that would be too mean to have as the question.
Yeah, I figured it'd be 9th or 4th with a
5 places. They were a bit more.
or 10 place.
A bit more hasty on the 10 place grid penalties for engine issues in 2006.
They did use more engines though.
Question 4. When was the first Hungarian Grand Prix?
Nigel.
Adam.
Nigel, go. I heard Nigel first.
1986.
It is. It's 1986.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Adam, the comeback needs to start now
That's all right.
with question 5. Who is the only Hungarian driver to race in Formula 1?
Oh, I don't know. I have literally no idea.
I can give you some clues by telling you who you raced for.
That's not going to help.
I
Nigel, I'm going to guess. I know this is a common Hungarian name. So Zabo?
No.
No. All right.
Adam, we'll throw it over to you with a clue. He drove for Jordan for about 1 or 2 races, and then he drove a season for Minardi.
Zoltan.
I thought you were going to get it there. You're both going to throw it off, throw the sack in?
Is it Zolta?
No.
No, I have no idea.
It's Zolt Baumgartner.
Oh.
No, I was never ever going to get that.
I thought there was a chance because it was 2004 that he drove, but
I'm surprised there's only been one Hungarian, actually.
I'm not.
there was No, I'm getting mixed up with someone else. Yeah, I thought there was someone who did a practice session, but I don't think there was. Okay, so unless you both miss out on another question, there will be a winner. So, question 6. Damon Hill put in a performance for the ages in the 1997 Hungarian Grand Prix, leading for most of the way after a demon move on Michael Schumacher before a hydraulic issue 2 laps from the end. And Jacques Villeneuve then overtook him and won the race. What Minnow team was he driving for? Nigel?
Arrows.
Yeah, it was Arrows.
I need to listen to the races. Bring back B10 podcast on that. That's queued up on one of mine.
It's such a good story, and Sky F1 did a watch along with it as well, which is on YouTube somewhere. You can just essentially see the race happening. So I really recommend both of those.
You can watch other people watching the race.
You can watch Damon Hill watching the race.
I saw the end of that on the 08 Brazilian Grand Prix with Massa and someone else.
Oh yeah,
I think he's one of the commentators.
Yeah, they have about 4 or 5 of them on them. They did Hockenheim last year as well with Verstappen and Horner.
Oh, that's good.
That was quite interesting. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. Question number 7. Now, I was thinking of this question, and I think Nigel might have an inkling what it is. So, good luck. Good luck, Adam.
Not.
Who did Nelson Piquet overtake around the outside in 1986 for the first
Adam.
win? Adam?
Oh, no, I'm thinking of Prost.
No.
No, I was thinking of
Throwing it over?
It's either Mansell or Senna. I think it was Senna.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
It is Ayrton Senna, 3-time world champion for Brazil. Nigel Mansell did a stunning move on Senna, I think a couple of years later when he was in the Ferrari with a back marker in the way, which I thought is a very good move. But yeah, this is the one where they're coming down the main straight to the old turn 1, and Piquet sort of power slides it around the outside of Senna.
That's right.
Yeah, I can picture it.
It's handed by many as one of the best moves in Formula One, purely for.
Don't get that nowadays, do you?
Well, I mean, Kimi did it on
Verstappen
in 2016. He came up the inside in Hungary on whatever it is, one of the right-hand corner just before the last snaky complex.
Yeah.
Lost the back end and power slided it through the corner and still came out ahead of Felipe Nasr.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was a very good move. It was a complete fluke, but anyway. Speaking of the Hungarian Grand Prix, question 8. Who replaced Felipe Massa, who was taken ill in the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix? Adam Dickinson.
Luca Badoer.
No. In 2017.
I didn't listen to that bit.
I think it was Paul di Resta.
It was P. Di Resta.
That's completely passed me by. I didn't.
Nigel on 6 points.
Route.
1.
Yeah.
Adam, you're getting mixed up with Hungary being where Felipe Massa had the accident.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Replace him for in
It
2009.
didn't really sound right, but I've got to go for it.
Yeah, it was a worthy guess. I mean, he did replace Felipe Massa.
He did after the Hungarian Grand Prix, just not
after the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Not after Hungarian. Actually, it could have been free practice 3. I thought, it might have been qualifying. Anyway, question 9. Can Adam make a comeback? Mathematically, no, but let's hope. Who was on the front row for last year's Hungarian Grand Prix?
Adam,
go.
Max Verstappen.
And?
Lewis Hamilton.
No. Nigel Chu, let's throw it over to you.
I think it's Valtteri Bottas in second.
It is.
Ooh, fair enough.
It's Valtteri Bottas in second. Only just as well, I seem to remember. So.
Oh, yeah, because he had an awful...
you both get a point? I don't know.
He had an awful first lap, didn't he?
Yeah. And that leads us on to question 10. What position did Bottas finish in the race in 2019?
Nigel.
Nigel, go.
He broke his front wing and then didn't really fight through the midfield much. So I'm going to go 5th.
Okay. Adam, what's your guess?
Is it the closest wins or just kind of going
it's not. Nigel's wrong.
I'll go 8th.
Yes, 8th.
Oh, that's good. Rescuing it a bit at the end.
Adam brings it back. And after 10 questions, and, both of you getting 9 right, I give you both a point. We have Nigel on 1, 2, 3, 4. Nigel on 7.
Yes.
But Adam
First
currently
win.
clutching second on 3 points.
So just need the 4 questions. I mean, you
Nigel,
wrap
can I interest you in a double or nothing?
Uh,
You can win this twice, or
yeah.
Adam can win it all.
So does that mean I get an extra point in the series? Because at the moment we've all won 1 each.
No, you don't, because I haven't run this by both of you. I'm
happy to go for that.
Double or nothing.
Go
You
for
both
that.
get 2 wins if you get this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Here we go for a sudden death round. How many seconds did Alonso wait in the pits and block Hamilton for in the pit lane in the 2007 qualifying
Adam.
debacle?
Adam, I'll go 7.
Okay. Closest win.
Thank you.
Nigel Chu.
I think it was more than 7, so I'm going to go 15.
Ooh, the answer on the card is 10 seconds. So Adam's closing with 3 seconds out. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam has won the quiz twice. What a result.
That is, I can see why you're pleased with the tie-break question there. That was a very good one.
Yeah.
I was very upset that you didn't get it organically.
No.
Did you have to watch that back?
I don't think I deserve a whole
looked at
quiz win.
Wikipedia.
I quite like the idea of you there with your stopwatch, kind of watching it as he goes in.
I watched
don't
the
think
4-hour 2007 season review, and when it got to Hungary, I was like, and I missed it, and I had to watch it again. But
I don't think I deserve a second win in the quiz for that, but it was very good, and fair play to Nigel because he knew a lot more questions. It was only the 86 Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix that I actually knew that he got, so that was fair play.
That is fair play. But well done on your buzzing and prowess, Adam.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the Hungarian Grand Prix Preview Winging It F1 podcast, guys.
Right.
Hope you have enjoyed being here. Have you enjoyed it, Adam? Have you enjoyed this podcast?
Yeah, I have.
That's good. Nigel, have you been?
I always enjoy it. Yeah, it's good stuff.
What a guy. We hope you guys, our beautiful audience, have enjoyed it as well. Obviously, the aforementioned, not aforementioned, I don't know what I'm talking about. I mentioned it earlier. Anyway, to myself. So yes, so you can find us on Spotify, Acast, YouTube, and we're now on Apple Podcasts. That's amazing, guys.
Woo.
Apple Podcasts, we're a real podcast. So it's as if we're doing it properly. That's a joke. The links are in our Twitters, which mine is FredCoats1999. Adam, where can all your fans find you?
All of them can find me at Adam Dickinson01.
And yes, Nigel?
All 7 of my fans can find me at Nigel C. Journal.
7 fans, that's pretty good. We might get record views. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Practice starts tomorrow, Friday. Hopefully this can go up on Thursday. Qualifying Saturday, race Sunday. Nothing changed there. As we say, there's a touch of rain spitting down. Who knows what will happen? We don't know. First new track of 2020 because we've been at Austria only. Although you could argue been to Barcelona, but we won't. So we hope you have enjoyed the podcast. Please come back next week for a lot more rambling when we talk about the Hungarian Grand Prix, which will presumably be amazing. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
All right.